All right, diving in. Today, we're all about being prepared, not freaking out, okay? We're talking about being ready for anything. You guys send in some cool stuff on this system called Teamgo, and it's all about visitor management. BT, apparently, it can help with, like, serious emergencies. That's what we're going to dig into today. We've got info from their website, a YouTube video, the whole shebang.
It's crazy how these visitor systems are getting so advanced, right? Like, it's not just signing in anywhere. It's like, whoa, they can actually be useful in a crisis.
Yeah, it's way beyond just knowing who's in the building. It's about communication when things go sideways, keeping people safe. So first things first, what is Teamgo? Like the basics.
So from what you've got here, it seems like at its core, it's for visitor management.
Yeah.
Like digital sign-in sheets, but like way more high-tech.
Yeah.
Keeps track of who comes in, who they're seeing, when they arrive, when they leave, super detailed. But what's really interesting for us today is, get this, they have a whole bunch of features specifically for emergencies.
I gotta say, when I saw that, I was like, wait, what? Emergency features on a visitor thingy? It seemed kind of random, but now that you say it, it makes sense, right?
It's one of those things that at first you're like, huh, but then you think about all the info these systems are gathering and it clicks. Like TeamGo knows who's on site at any given time. They've got their contact info, even who they're there to visit. Imagine like a fire breaks out. Firefighters need to know who might be stuck inside. Bam! Instant access to all that data. Life-saving, potentially.
Right.
And then there's like the emergency contacts for families. True. Super important.
It's like the system is a safety net made of data, which is kind of mind-blowing. One thing that jumped out at me was their tagline in the video, be active, not reactive. Is that just marketing fluff, or is there something real behind it?
I think they're on to something, you know? It's about changing how we think about safety. We're used to reacting, like, oh crap, something happened, now what? But being prepared, having systems in place to communicate when things hit the fan, that's being active, and that can make a huge difference.
You know what? That reminds me of this time. Oh, never mind. That's a story for another day. Let's get down to brass tacks. TeamGo's features, that's where it gets juicy. They're all about their emergency alerts being instant, sent by email, AND text, unlimited. Why is that so crucial when things go bad?
Redundancy, my friend, redundancy. When it's an emergency, you can't depend on just one way of getting the message out. Like, what if the network's down? Phone is dead. By sending alerts everywhere, you up the chances of people actually getting the message. And that unlimited thing, huge. Imagine a big office building, a campus. You got to be able to reach everyone, not just a few lucky ducks.
You make a good point. The last thing you want is to be counting pennies for emergency alerts when, well, there's an actual emergency. Okay, the next thing that caught my eye was live reporting. Seeing who's on site in real time, that's got to be helpful, right? But how does it actually make things better in an emergency?
Okay, picture this. There's an evacuation order. First responders need to know, is everyone out? And if not, who's still inside and where? Boom. Live reporting gives them that info instantly. It's like a dynamic map of who's in the building, which is crucial for rescuing people and keeping everyone safe.
That's insane. It sounds like speed and real-time info are this system's superpowers. Speaking of targeting info, they've got location-based alerts. So not just blasting everyone, but being able to send alerts to specific areas in a building or even across multiple locations. Why is that so important? I bet that could be super useful in a targeted situation.
Totally. Not all emergencies affect an entire building or campus, right? Think of like a gas leak in one spot or a storm hitting just one side of a building. Location-based alerts let you warn only the people in danger, avoiding unnecessary panic. It's all about getting the right info to the right people at the right time.
It's like being smart with info, not adding to the chaos when things are already crazy. One feature I chuckled at first was message templates. You know, like pre-written messages for different emergencies. Isn't that kind of impersonal? Wouldn't a message written on the spot be more real and powerful?
I know, right? But think about it. Have you ever been in a super stressful situation where your brain just goes, nope?
Oh, yeah, totally. It's like all the words disappear from your head. I can see how having those pre-written messages could be helpful when you're like, ugh, what do I even say?
Exactly. In a crisis, clear communication is key. But stress can make you forget how to even form a sentence. That's where those templates come in handy. They guarantee the message is clear, simple, and has all the important stuff, even if the person sending it is freaking out. It's like a safety net for your brain.
Okay, I get it. It's like a script for a crisis, which actually isn't a bad idea when you think about it. Teamgo also has a bunch of other safety features, like screening visitors before they even show up, contactless sign-in, gathering health info, even managing how many people can be in a space. What's the big idea here, do you think? It seems like they're trying to cover every angle.
It's all about being proactive and reducing risks. By getting info up front, going contactless, setting limits, you're making things safer from the get-go. It's about anticipating problems and putting things in place to prevent them, or at least lessen the impact.
So it's not just about reacting to emergencies, it's about creating a safety-first culture. And that brings me to you, dear listener. Think about where you work or places you go often. Do they have systems like this? What would you want to know if something happened? Food for thought, right?
Totally. Being informed is like step one in being prepared.
Now, gotta be honest, all our info's from Teamgo themselves. They're obviously trying to sell us something, right?
For sure, we got to keep that in mind. But no matter who's selling it, those core things we talked about, instant alerts, live reporting, location-based messages, those are all super valuable for being prepared for anything. It's less about the brand name and more about what the tech can actually do.
It's like they're saying, hey, we already thought about this stuff, so you don't have to. And that peace of mind, man, that's gotta be worth something. Okay, but let's switch gears a bit. We've been all about the nuts and bolts, the features, the techie stuff. What about the people? How do you think a system like this, like Teamgo, could change how people actually react during an emergency?
That's a really good question. Gets to the heart of why being prepared is so important. You see, when people know what's going on, when they feel prepared, they don't panic as much. Knowing there's a system, knowing help's coming, knowing they'll get clear instructions, that calms things down in the middle of the chaos.
It's not just about the gadgets and gizmos. It's about that feeling of like, okay, we got this. It's like a psychological safety net, almost as important as the real deal.
Exactly. And that feeling of safety can spread.
Yes.
Right? If people are calm and prepared, they make better decisions, they follow instructions, they help each other. It can actually turn a crazy situation into something more manageable.
I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. It's not just visitor logs and alarms going off. It's about making a place more resilient, more prepared, just safer for everyone. It's about moving from what if something happens to when something happens, we're ready.
Exactly. And that when part is important, right? We don't want to be all doom and gloom, but emergencies do happen. They can happen anywhere, anytime.
True, you can't always predict that stuff, can't control it. But what you can control is how ready you are to deal with it. So would you say a system like Team Kazo is a good fit for like any workplace? Or are there some places where it makes even more sense?
That's a good point. I mean, any workplace could benefit from being more prepared, right? But yeah, there are some places where a system like this is like mission critical. Think about schools with tons of students, hospitals with patients and staff all over the place, huge office buildings, factories with dangerous stuff, government buildings that are responsible for public safety. Those are all places where knowing what's happening in real time and having rock-solid communication can literally be life or death.
Places with lots of people, high stakes, a responsibility to keep everyone safe. Gotcha. It's about looking at the risks and picking the right tools to handle them.
But let's zoom out even further, like a big what if. Imagine a future where this kind of emergency preparedness stuff is just built into everything, not just work, but schools, malls, airports, everywhere. Is that where we're headed, do you think? I think it's a world we should be aiming for. And honestly, we're already seeing it starting to happen. Think about all the smart buildings popping up, all the connected devices, the whole Internet of Things thing. It's all making things more connected, more responsive, and yeah, potentially safer.
But wouldn't that come with like some downsides too? Like more data being collected, more surveillance, being too reliant on tech that could, just crap out when you need it most. It's kind of like a two-sided coin, right?
Yeah, right. Those are real concerns, and we got to think about them carefully as we build this stuff. It's a tough balance. How do we make things safer without giving up our privacy and freedom? That's the question we need to be asking ourselves as we move forward.
That's a question that could take us down a whole other rabbit hole, another deep dive maybe, something to think about for the future. But for today, I think we've covered a lot of ground. We started with the bells and whistles, then talked about how it affects people, and now we're even thinking about the future of emergency preparedness. It's been really makes you think, doesn't it? We've talked a lot about how tech, like this Teamgo thing, can help with emergencies, but before we wrap up, I want to get back to, what about us, regular folks? What can we do to be more prepared even if our work doesn't have some fancy system?
That's a super important point. Tech's just a tool, right? It can't replace being personally prepared. There's some basic things everyone should do, like have a plan, like a real plan, Know your escape routes, like if there's a fire, where do you go? Have a go bag ready with the essentials. and stay informed about potential risks in your area.
Those are all good practical tips. I think a lot of people forget about the simple stuff like having a plan, knowing where to go if you got to get out fast. It's easy to think, oh, it'll never happen to me. But like we've been saying, emergencies, they can pop up anywhere, anytime.
Exactly. And maybe the most important thing is don't be afraid to talk about this stuff. Talk to your family, your friends, the people you work with. The more we have these conversations, the more prepared we all are.
It's like, how does that saying go? Practice makes perfect. The more you think about what you do in an emergency, the better you'll handle it if it actually happens.
Right. It's not just about being physically prepared, it's about being mentally prepared too.
It sounds like knowing what's up is a real superpower in these situations. Not just knowing what to do, but feeling like you can actually do it?
Absolutely. And that brings us back to what we've been talking about today. Being prepared isn't about being scared. It's about being in control. It's about having the knowledge and the tools to face anything.
That's a great way to put it. It's about feeling ready, not freaked out. So, to our listener, I hope this deep dive gave you some good info, maybe even inspired you to take some steps to be more prepared. Remember, knowledge is power and being ready is key. Until next time, stay curious and keep on diving deep.